Okay, so we're going to start with our notes. So let's talk about the intro question. It says, what information do you think you'll be able to determine from an equation written in slope-intercept form? This is not a trick. We just want you to figure out what can you determine from the name of the equation. So from the name of the equation, we are able to determine the slope and the intercept. Okay, remember an intercept is where it crosses the axis. Okay, so in the intercept of a line. All right, the slope and the intercept of a line. So the y-intercept, well, basically that's where, these are our vocabulary, right? Where a line crosses the y-axis. Okay, the other thing that you would want to know is just to remember the ordered pair is 0, comma, and then that right here is going to be the y-intercept. Okay, so slope-intercept form. So again, slope-intercept form is going to be y equals, I'm going to try and color code this the best I can do, mx plus and then B. So the idea behind that is the letters in red are what are going to change. So M is equal to whatever number is represented by the slope, and B is the y-intercept. Okay, so now let's take a look at number 1. Write the equation of a line that has a slope of 3 and crosses the y-axis at 5. So the first thing we want to do is determine the value for the slope and the y-intercept. So slope is 3, slope is the m, b is the y-intercept, and that is 5. So now all we need to do is replace those numbers in the correct spot. So the m is in front of the x, and the y-intercept is the number without a variable. All right, so we get y equals 3x plus, that should not be a b, that should be a 5. And then that's going to be our equation. All right, number 2 says write the equation of a line that goes through these points. Okay, well, how is this different from the first example? Well, the first example, I was given the slope and the y-intercept. This one, I'm given 2 points. Okay, which means we need an extra step. So we first need to be able to find the slope. So the extra step that we need to start with is to find the slope. Now, this was from the previous lesson, and the slope formula was when you have delta y over delta x, which means the change in y. So we are subtracting the y coordinates over subtracting the x coordinates. So let's go ahead and look at our work here. So what I can do is I will go ahead and color code these. So the point is 0, 7, and then 2, 1. So blue is going to represent my x, and I'll do, excuse me, green for my y's. Excuse me. So let me color code that better for you. Y2 minus Y1. And then my x's are represented by my blue. So x2 minus x1. All right, so let's go ahead and look at my y's. So I'm going to have 1 minus 7 over And because I went 1 minus 7 here, I started at the 1 and subtracted the 7. I need to be consistent with starting at the 2 and subtracting the 0. Okay, so now we just go through. This is going to give me a negative 6 over 2, and that's going to give me a negative 3. And then the next thing I need to know is I need to identify the y-intercept. Okay, well, out of these 2 points, my y-intercept is 0, 7. Okay, this was given. And remember that on a y-intercept, when the x is 0, that's what is going to tell you that this is the y, that's the intercept. So let's just put it all together now. Y equals, I'm going to put my x, and then my slope was negative 3, and then my y-intercept was 7. So I'm going to put plus 7, and then I get to box my answer. All right, so now let's take a look over here. Graphing equations. So it says number 1, we are given our equation right here. Determine the value for b and plot the point on the graph. So remember that the b is our y-intercept. That is going to be when x is 0. So remember that when x is 0, so if I were to replace 2 times 0, obviously that's going to be 0. 0 plus 3 is just 3. So that's why it's easy to identify it right there. So the point on the graph is 0, 3. So my y-intercept is right here, right? Determine the value for m. So remember the m is going to be the slope. Okay, it's right before the x. Then starting at the y-intercept, find at least 2 more points on the graph based on the slope. So my slope is 2. It's the number in front of the x. Okay. Now think about that as 2 over 1 because we are going to go up 2 and to the right 1. The other way I can do a positive 2 is to write it as negative 2 over negative 1, which would tell me I'm going to go down and then to the left. So if I'm starting here on the y-intercept, I'm going to go up 2, so up 2 over 1, and there's where I draw my other point. Now I can't go any more up because I'm out of the graph. So what I'm doing is I'm going to utilize this going down and to the left. So going down 2 and over to the left 1. And then I connect it. And I can just continue to do that pattern. Down 2 and left 1 until I'm at the end of the graph. And so that's how you're going to graph. So let's take a look at number 2. The first thing we want to do is identify the y-intercept. Now the nice thing about this, for the slope is now negative 2 over 3. So it's telling us negative 2 over 3, which says I go down, and then that's a positive 3, so I go to the right. However, the other way to do that is to go 2 over negative 3. That is the same thing, but this 2 now is positive, and then this guy tells me to go to the left. So let's see what this first term does, right? So we're going to go down 2 and to the right 3, and then we can connect it. Okay, but now I'm out of the graph, so I just put an arrow tip over here because I don't have enough to go down 2 and over 3. It's kind of like off the graph over here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is go up. I'm going to go this one, up 2, left 3, up 2, left 3. I'm already off the graph, so I just need to continue with my arrow. All right, so now let's take a look at number 3. What extra step is needed for this example? Well, do you notice that it's not solved for y? So we need to be able to solve for y. So we need to solve for y. All right. So what we're going to do is I will do my arithmetic over here. So 12x minus 3y equals 6. So again, I remember what I want to do is I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract the x. I get negative 3y is equal to negative 12x plus 6. And then from here, I need to divide each term by negative 3. So I get y is equal to, this is going to be 4x, and this is going to be minus 2. So I take this information, and it's the same line. It's just that it's going to be a lot easier, A, to get practice at solving for y, and B, now you identify the slope and the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is going to be my 2, right? So this negative 2 is right here. And then my m is 4 over 1. So that's up 4 to the right 1, or I can put negative 4 over negative 1. Go down and to the left. So I'm going to go up first. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. I'm kind of off the chart on that. So just draw my arrow. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the left. All right. And so that's what my graph is going to look like here. Okay. So here's some reflection questions here. It says, how is graphing different using slope-intercept form? Okay, compared to using a table. Remember what you did before? We used a table for graphing. Okay, so I want you to make sure you answer this question, and then you will turn in your notes.